Hi everyone and welcome to the show. This is our very first episode for the Heart of Homeschooling. We are so excited. Hi Sig.
Hi, Cher. How are
I know.
you?
Good. I'm great. Today is the start of an exciting learning opportunity for everyone, for all of our audience, and for us as well. I know you have your drink. What are you drinking today, Sig?
I'm having coffee.
Me too.
You're right. I hope you have your cup of coffee with you and join us. Put your feet up. Just listen on the conversation. Cher and I will have, and maybe we can pick up a thing or two from what we've talked about, and carry on the conversation for the next few episodes. Right, Cher?
That's right. And guys, Sig and I are always interested to know what the best cup of coffee is out there or tea. So let us know what you're drinking. Today I'm drinking something hot, but I'm actually more of a cold coffee drinker. So maybe for the future episodes, we'll have that. And we have a few favorites, and maybe we'll share that with you. Sig, I know in the intro you told our audience a little bit about you, but maybe for the benefit of those who might want to learn more, can you tell us a little bit about your family and your homeschooling journey?
Homeschooling is really a journey for me. So I learn new things every day, and I also learn from our fellow homeschooling moms who've been there much, much longer than I have been. I actually started homeschooling when my eldest daughter was in grade one. I think that time I wasn't fully immersed in it, or I wasn't, you know, my heart wasn't into it full time, I'd say. Or I was, the reason why I started doing that really is because of my son who had cancer. He was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 3, so he was attending already a preschool, but we had to pull him out. And he felt he was actually uh, missing out on being with friends and on learning when we had to pull him out. And personally, I wanted to make the experience of my children somewhat the same, and they have a shared experience. So I felt, as an educator, I used to teach in preschool before, I felt I could probably take on homeschooling again with my kids. So I pulled my daughter out, who was already entering grade one, and I decided to homeschool her for that year. But eventually, I put them back in regular schooling. But around junior high, actually, that was when I felt I wasn't really very happy with the schooling that my children were into, and there was a lot of stress, and the travel time was taking its toll on their health. They had to wake up very early just to go to school, and it was affecting their moods and all that. So that's why I decided, I'm going to go give homeschooling a second try, a second chance. And that was back in 2016. And so technically, I've been homeschooling for like 6 years. So it's not really a lot compared to our other home season homeschoolers have actually been homeschooling for much, much longer than that. But I guess I'm also a learner myself. I'm curious, and I'm never satisfied with just what is presented before me. So I try to find better ways to do things. And I think that in itself has helped enrich my homeschooling curriculum. So I have 8 kids, Share, but I've homeschooled
Whoa.
5 of them. So actually, we're kind of a mixed household. I've had 3 kids who are in regular school, and 5 are homeschooled. So
My
there, that's where you
goodness.
have it. What about you? What made you venture into homeschooling?
So I have three very active children. My eldest is now 13. And
Oh.
when he graduated grade 6 last year, we actually decided to explore homeschooling for him. My
Mhm.
younger kids, my two girls, are in regular school or traditional school. So, like Sig, we're a little bit of a mixed household. So, we kind of have the benefit of seeing both. For us, we recognize the unique needs of our children. As we had more kids, we realized, hey, they're not all the same. And
Yeah,
I know we know that,
exactly.
right? I know we
You're
know that,
right.
but when you're there, right, you
Mhm.
realize, hey, there apparently the uniqueness also applies to their learning styles. And at some point, even before he was in sixth grade, we were already toying with the idea of maybe there's a better way of him learning. It doesn't always have to be in a traditional framework, within a traditional framework. Um,
Mhm.
my son has unique learning needs. He has attention challenges. So the sitting part for a long time may not always work for him, and we kind of recognize that. And we thought, maybe there is another way for him to still learn, rigorously all of the things that his sisters are learning and within the traditional framework of schooling, but
Mhm.
with some flexibility and also with, I guess, recognition of his unique ways, right? And that's when
Mhm.
we kind of stumbled onto homeschooling. I've always heard about, I knew it, like in general, right?
Mhm.
I had an idea, but I was so scared. Because for the longest time I was the office going mom, so I had to kind of deal with
Yeah.
that. I had that misconception that kind of like homeschooling parents, especially moms, aren't they the ones that don't have jobs and they're
Stay
just at
at
home and that's all they
home.
I had that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like, how will I do that? We can't, we won't be able to pull that off. So yeah, so I was, I'm part of that. I had those misconceptions, but finally, after speaking to some friends and of course doing a bit more research, talking to the homeschooling experts, I realized it doesn't really work that way. I mean, it doesn't always have to be that you're just at home. I mean, although of course now
Yes.
everyone's at home for the most part, but don't have to be just you can be a full-time working parent, very busy, which is why I really admire you, Sig. You're someone that I look up to in this area because you're able to run a household, right? And also run your business at the same time. And I'm sure there are a lot of individuals, parents like us, their plates are full, whether it's business or their personal endeavors or maybe even their passions and causes that they support, and yet they still decide to homeschool. And maybe there are other people that are thinking of homeschooling, but like me, like me, I'm like I had all this misgivings. I'm not good in math. How will I teach my son math? I'm
Yeah,
not a whiz.
same. I'm sure a lot of you are raising your hands now, right? Because you're always not confident about a particular subject or what. So I'm sure. So you're not alone. I went through that
Yeah.
same experience as well about not being confident, particularly in math. So
Yes,
so you're not.
yes. I'm like, oh, how would I do that? And my son, because my son is now in seventh grade, going on eighth grade. I'm like, oh no, and that's high math, that's higher math and higher sciences.
That's
How am I
algebra,
gonna?
I think.
How am I gonna
Yeah.
teach that? I don't have a natural, love for math. So, yeah. So all of those, but eventually we found a solution that worked for us, for our family, and we're very new at it. Obviously, it's a lot of tweaks involved. We're still tweaking it, and why we decided to do this show. I
Yeah.
think with what's happening, especially now in the world, we've found that a lot more parents have looked at this method because
Mhm.
it's just the answer to what's happening now. But well, I know we there are still a lot of questions. There are still a lot of misgivings, maybe some urban legends about like homeschool kids don't have social lives or don't know how to socialize or something.
You're right. You're right.
But for someone for newbies like me or for those that are probably exploring the idea of homeschooling, are there any considerations that were top of mind when you were evaluating?
Yeah, share. Actually, okay, not to mention that homeschooling itself, just like us, I mean, we all had our doubts. We questioned our capability to do it, right? And um, well, the fear is obviously what overcomes us before we actually get into it. But yet also the desire to want to do this is there. That's also constantly calling us and asking us to consider it as an option. So that's just like you, I went through those things as well. And I think the same for all of the other homeschooling parents out there who are considering it or who have done it for for many years already. So I think what is really important for fellow homeschooling moms like us is to start with some sort of a vision, and that's how I actually started it. So I, of course, for me, I prayed about it because I really reach out, and it's an important component of my day is to actually seek out, prayer time, and in a way, it's for me a chance for me to consult with God about any decisions that I make in my life, and such as this, because your children's hands your children's future is in your hands, right? So it's not something that you take lightly. So it was something that I first did and considered, and I envisioned also in my mind how I wanted the homeschooling journey to be. I mean, of course, I was watching a couple of homeschooling experts in the U.S. and they're all saying, yeah, sometimes you imagine perfectly planned curriculums, sunny days, you take walks and all that, and do nature studies with your kids. I mean, that is possible, but that's also how would you call it? Maybe a dream state. It's not. I'm just going to tell you that it's not always going to be like that. There will be some struggles, and usually the first year or even two will really be a struggle. Sometimes you want to throw in the towel and then give up. Say it's not for me. Um, and it can be discouraging at times, but that's why I think it's important for you for our fellow parents to actually have that sort of desire and constant willingness and urge to keep on. It's just like pretty much starting anything that you're passionate about. If you strongly believe that it's for you and it's the best for your child or for your children, then you have to be constant about it, despite all the challenges that come your way. Um, I guess that's how, and really, you can talk to all the homeschooling parents out there, and they will tell you that they've had incidences or any moments when they actually want to rethink their position about homeschooling and give up. So, but at the same time, they just carried on and discover. So as it is, homeschooling is really a journey, not only for your child, it's also for you as a homeschooling parent.
I agree.
It's yeah, and each year can be a different experience from the previous one and from the next, and that's why it's really a dynamic it's a dynamic way of educating your children, and that's what really drew me into it, and how personalized and how um, how exciting it can be. So that's it.
I think we'll just already off the bat address that issue because sometimes people who homeschool or vice versa feel that it has to be like an all or nothing thing, right? Like if you're a homeschooler, that probably means you are totally against it. There must be something wrong with the regular educational system and you are revolting against it, so you've decided to pay. So off the bat, we will just I guess address that issue. It's not like that way or the highway kind of thing. It's not one or the other. It can certainly be both. And it doesn't always have to mean that when you homeschool, you're saying that the regular schools or traditional schools are evil or don't work or
Yeah, not
right?
at all. Yes, yeah, I agree with you.
Right?
Yeah, it's actually I mean really at the heart of it all, it's what drives us parents to do the things that we do is really for the best interest of our own kids, right? I mean, and if you have multiple children, it may not, one way may not always, like what you said earlier, one method may not always work for the rest of the children because they have their own needs. And you'd be sometimes surprised that even if they both come from the same set of parents, they can behave differently, think differently, act differently, and all that. So as parents, we respond to that kind of, to their needs and take that into consideration in terms of not only dealing with them in a parent-child way, but also in educating them. So we choose the best way we think they will learn about the world around them, and that's how we plan out our plans, our education plans for our children, whether it's going to be homeschooling, traditional schooling, unschooling, whatever it is. That's basically the journey that I was talking about earlier. It's a personal journey for each of your. In fact, those who are in homeschooling right now, their journey can be very different. So
That's
one can
right.
be totally ecstatic about it, and I have one child who's completed 2 levels in a school year, yet the other one is also a bit taking his time. So because maybe he learns a little bit differently, or he wants to explore more rather than do the work at hand, or the tasks that are required. So it's really a personal journey for them as well, and we just
Right.
simply
So
respond to that.
I guess we'll just reiterate, right? If you are considering, if this is something that you're exploring, trying to
Mhm,
see if it's something that you may want to do for your child or children,
mhm,
like what Sig is saying, a couple of considerations, of course. Number one, so again, it's not just a matter of do I not like regular schools, I'm going to be homeschooling. That's just maybe it's not that's not the only thing that you have to think about. Again, a huge part obviously is your recognition of your child's unique needs, unique ways of
mhm,
learning. um,
mhm, mhm.
it has to be, I guess, you just have to internalize and pray about it and really observe, to the best of your ability, right? What you feel help your child grow, right? That flame in them, that spark in them. What will help that become, an overwhelming flame that envelopes them, the love for learning, right? Think was
Yes.
exploring when you're educating your child, you're thinking as well, what does that mean to me or to our family? Because
Mhm.
putting someone through school or educating them may mean different things. And I guess that's something that parents also have to ask themselves, right? Apart from um, a certain way of schooling answering your child's unique needs, unique
Mhm.
situations, whether it is really physical situations, they're unable to go to school, whether certain occasions call for it. Maybe, for some, it's for something, I know they're homeschooling because it is a result of maybe the parents' type of jobs that if the parents have to be
Correct.
assigned everywhere, right?
That's true.
And
Yeah. That's
right,
why
and
they
now
have
and they
to.
have
Yeah.
exactly, it's like an anchor
Mhm.
to them, so that may be the consideration,
Mhm.
for you and your family, your child's needs. Well, again, whether it is physical, emotional, social, you just have to evaluate your child's needs first, and then look at, I guess, the family setting, right?
Mhm.
The rather the family situation. Is it
That's
something
true.
that will work? And it's like, maybe we can tell them as well, because I know a lot of at least from when I was doing my search, and the newbie that I am, right? A lot of the a lot of the misconceptions is that when you say homeschooling, you're just talking to the mom. Is that the case in your family, Sig? I mean, do
Well,
dads need to be involved, or it's just really mothers that are
no, not necessarily. So I have to find, I have to correct myself when I address, our audience now, because sometimes you have a tendency to say homeschooling moms when actually it's, homeschooling dads as well. It's really actually, um, you're right about what you said earlier about the impact it has on your family. So you have to, I think, consider also how each one can be involved in educating the children in the family, right? So whether it's the mom or it's the dad, it really depends your personal circumstance. And you're right about that then, as well, share about talking about considerations about your reasons for homeschooling. Could be travel, it could be many other things, you know, and that can be as personal as each family that you meet. But you're right, it's not only just the parents. Of course, you're lucky if like in your case, you have a lot of children, or well, not a lot, but you have three children at least. And I have a lot of children. It helps in the socialization, in the conversation, in the exchanges of ideas and all that. But it doesn't mean that just because you have one or two kids, then that's not something that you can do. Of course, right now it's very difficult to do that with the pandemic, right? No one is actually stepping out of their homes for fear of catching the virus. So, but online there are many efforts of a lot of homeschooling communities to reach out to these kids who may just be homeschooling on their own, or maybe with another sibling, to to touch base with them, to communicate, have activities with them, and really just carry on the conversation with other kids like them, whether of the same age or of varying ages. So that's actually, again, kudos to the homeschooling parents for their creativity. It's actually coming from the parents themselves. They know what they need and they offer it and reach out to other families who may also be experiencing the same needs as they are. So just like this, it's our way to reach out to fellow parents who
Right.
are on the journey as well, the
That's
same way with
right.
us. Right? So this is
And
our way to reach out to them.
Sig, I know you mentioned, earlier, just so we can correct maybe that misconception as well, right? Because you did mention that obviously the show is born, during the time of the pandemic, right? And
Mhm.
a lot of people, although there have been some schools are already mostly abroad are doing their face to face regular school attendance already. Most are still staying at home and doing their classes at home. So just so people don't get confused, because I know sometimes people still mix it up or get these things mixed up, right? So when we talk about homeschooling, right, can we just
Mhm.
clarify to people the difference between homeschooling, the homeschool program, the homeschooling movement, and having
Mhm.
children do their schoolwork at home?
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, you're right. You're right about that misconception, and maybe even some people actually misconstrue that just because they are learning online with the class that they have in their regular schools at home, then that is homeschooling. So actually no. So the difference really there, share, is that homeschooling essentially, it's the parent who takes on the education of their children, who takes on educating their child, personally, taking on planning for how their child will learn, planning the curriculum for them, enriching it with activities, and injecting it with other concepts or ways to make the learning fun and exciting for the child. So it's really the difference is that with the online learning that some or most of the kids are going through now, is that it's still teacher led.
Yeah.
So you have a teacher there who conducts the classes, and they are, they're learning from that kind of method. Whereas homeschooling is actually more of, you know, a, a child-led education. It's pretty much recognizing the skills, the interests, the learning style of the child, and the parent responding to that and teaching him or her in a way that she will absorb best the concepts. So, of course, early on for younger children, it's really more the child, or sorry, the parent initiating the sessions, the classes or the programs for the child. As they establish that kind of routine, later on, as they get older, the child themselves will be able to, create their own path, and create their own track for learning, and maybe even decide on the schedule that will fit them best. So that's how it ultimately homeschooling encourages the child to be self-reliant and do things by themselves. So that's really the difference between online
That's
learning
right.
or and homeschooling. Yeah.
Homeschooling, yes. And we just wanted to put it out there just so parents don't get confused, right? Because I know we were getting these questions.
The most similar thing that you have there is just the venue. It's really that it's done at home, but under this present circumstance of the pandemic, since you can't really go out. But other than that, there's really a lot of differences more than similarities. Actually, Cher, I wanted to ask you, how was your journey like when you tried to, when you seriously considered homeschooling for your child and for your son in particular? What was it like for you? I mean, searching the right program, provider, and all that. Maybe you could
Right.
share it with your audience today. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, when we started our search for what program we'd like for our son, because because part of my job is I'm online, right, being a social media strategist. The first thing I did was obviously look up options online, and then
Yeah.
based on what Google suggested to me, so I started kind of looking at what those programs, those providers were good at,
Yeah.
what they
Yeah,
were
you'll
known
see.
for, right? Yeah. Things, how they, I guess, fashion their approaches, because again, slightly different, right?
Mhm.
And actually,
Mm.
by serendipity, what was actually, I really call it serendipity. What was funny was I had decided on this homeschool provider already in the country. Very reputable.
Mhm.
They had a good track record. Their programs seemed to fit what we were sort of thinking for our son, what we wanted for our son to do. I think, already reached out to them to get more details, how to get started, etc.
Mhm.
And then by chance, by serendipity again, I had a meeting, I get together with some friends, and then one of my friends said, Cher, have you heard of this homeschooling program? Because she was at that time, I think she had just started her son on homeschooling. Then I go, okay, what do you mean? And she was um actually, sorry, let me correct myself. Before we decided that we were going to get started on that, she had already started her homeschooling journey. So when she
Mhm.
said, yes, so we're homeschooling, then I go, because she's a full-time working mom as well, she's probably even busier than me. I go, how are you doing it? I mean, oh my gosh, the first thing I said, you must be so patient. How are you managing it? And
Well,
she was laughing. It was just like, no, there are different, ways for you to
to
get the support
homeschool.
you need. Yeah,
Although,
if you're
yes, growing in
homeschooling.
patience is also a plus.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's one of the pluses when you homeschool.
Yeah, so I have ways to go in that area. I think. But so she was telling me there are other providers that
Mhm.
that also have the homeschooling program. And then she had a brochure with her, and she said, "Look at this. This is where I enrolled my son. You might wanna, just take a look at it." So when we finally were serious, because again, we were contemplating this for a couple of years before we were actually serious about it. Got serious about the search. I I I I remember the conversation, and of course, by that time, I remember the provider she was saying, and
Mhm.
my husband and I are Catholic. Um,
Mhm.
so that was one of our considerations as well. Obviously, to find providers that are aligned with our values at home, our beliefs at
Yeah.
home. Again, I respect that everyone has their own methods, their own beliefs as well. But for us, that was one of the major things. And I
Yeah.
remembered my friend saying, there's this provider, they're a Catholic homeschooling provider. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I said, that's very interesting. And she goes, and you should see the program, how they execute it, because the Catholic faith is really at the center of it, and the way they approach the subject is through that lens. And then for me, it's like, okay, that's great because the other providers were great, but then I appreciated the fact that she said that for this particular provider, they were really, that was really the focus. And then then she mentioned the other things like, oh yes, and they offer accreditation as well in the state. So if your child does graduate from this program, your child can get a diploma from the state. And because my husband and I used to live in the States as well, we used to live in Boston for a couple of years. So I was like, oh, that's great. So at least there's that option. So there's that option for our child. So we reached out. So I Googled it. Thank you, Google. Thank you, Internet. I did more research.
Well, that's another plus for those who are homeschooling. When I started out in homeschooling, Cher, just to let you know, I think I shared this with you a couple of conversations before. We actually didn't have Facebook. We didn't have, yes, maybe Google was there, but we had Yahoo groups to form the community. I don't know if it's still there now, but you're right. Yeah, going back to the idea of homeschooling right now, thanks to the internet, resources abound and are really within reach now for all of our parents who are considering homeschooling. But
exactly.
Good for you.
Exactly. So for that, basically, it was getting information and then obviously reaching out already, and then getting to talk to the people who are providing the program, and then trying to see if it was a good fit. And then afterwards, I did find that which is I guess a boon to homeschooling parents everywhere, the support that's available and within the communities. I did find that there are apparently providers as well. They're like a learning they're not what should I call them? They're learning centers that help homeschooling parents with the curriculum of children. So my fear about higher math and sciences got addressed.
As well.
Saying, oh my gosh, I don't have to teach my son calculus and statistics.
Yeah.
There are
You're
more
right.
competent educators who can do that, with me and help us family with that. And I can focus on teaching him the other things that are closer to my heart, maybe like literature and arts and religion.
Correct. Yeah. You're so the same.
That's our journey. I mean, again, we're still tweaking it. Sometimes we're still trying to find the balance, the way, it will work. I mean, we're very new to it, a year into it. So we're looking forward to seeing how that will go for our family. And, the other thing that I really admire about you is that because you've been doing it, you're saying 6 years, not, as long as the other homeschooling parents, but still 6 years, that's close to a decade of homeschooling. Your kids are older. I think most of your kids are older than my kids. My eldest is only 13. You have kids that are already in junior high, and I believe you have a college. Don't you have a college bound? Yeah, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
she's actually in college now, but online.
Great. So, and I think that's the other thing that maybe homeschooling parents or those that are again thinking about it, right? I mean, need to hear that homeschooling will work all the way to, to junior high, senior high. And yes, homeschooling children, right, can get into good colleges.
Oh, yes.
Later on, right?
Yeah. You're right. So that's actually one of the concerns a lot of parents have when when their kids are slowly getting into the high school stages, like what happens next? Because really homeschooling is just for I think kindergarten or preschool up to grade 12, right? So, well, the good thing is, of course, Dep Ed recognizes that, and some of our universities now actually accept children who were homeschooled as long as they're able to provide, the records to present to these universities, and possibly to also take exams or the entrance exams. If they make it, then these universities actually take them in. There's really no reason why they shouldn't. because it's a right of every child to be educated, right? Provided they're able to meet the, the minimum requirements, then they should be given that chance as well as anybody else who probably come from traditional school as well. So yes, it's possible. It's been done since many years ago. These kids are able to go into really top universities in the country and even abroad. So it shouldn't hinder parents who are fearful about that to actually continue homeschooling your children up to the 12th grade. So it's just a matter of finding what these requirements are from these different schools and complying with them. Otherwise, there shouldn't be any hindrance to it. So yeah, don't be fearful, parents.
Don't be
It's been
fearful.
done.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
And Sig is a
just do it.
testament to that and other numerous other homeschooling parents. So yes, it will work even if your child is beyond preschool, even if your child is beyond the early grade school years. Yes, you can homeschool your children all the way till senior high school. And yes, they can get into the good universities. Don't worry. This is something that is already a worldwide movement and it's been so many, many, many years. So if it works for your child, if it works for your family, we highly suggest that you do take a look at the homeschooling program. And,
That's true.
like we have a lot of things, homeschooling,
Yeah.
this journey, this world, there are a lot more discussions that I think we are going to be having. So
Oh
again,
yes.
if you are joining us for the very first time here in our very first episode, we want to hear from you. Let us know what your questions are. What have you been hearing about homeschooling?
Yes.
What are things that concern you or bother you or make you fearful? Like,
Yeah, do let us know. We're in this journey with you. Remember that.
exactly. Let us know what those concerns are. Let us know what you want us to talk about. That we can tackle that with you, grow with you, learn more with you about this homeschooling journey. So make sure that you always follow the Heart of Homeschooling show. We are going to be online on different social media platforms. Reach out to us if you have any questions or messages for
They
us
have
or
to
concerns.
subscribe.
Exactly. And subscribe to us. That's right.
Yes.
Subscribe to the show. So that
Yeah.
you get notified whenever we have our new episodes. And, if you want to send us your questions via video, send that to us via private or direct messages. Send us a note, and then we'll try to get to them. Again, the show is all about you, all about our fellow parents who are seeking the best ways to educate their child or their children. So let us know what you'd like to hear from us. Okay, Sig,
Yes. All
any
right.
any
So
last words for our audience as we wrap up the first episode?
well, just that I'm really excited, along with Cher, to be doing this show with you. To be at the center of all of these, your concerns, your challenges. We're taking this journey with you, and we want to let you know that we're hand holding you in this process, as also learn from our different speakers and experts on homeschooling, and maybe pick up a thing or two from the conversations we'll have. Again, these conversations are going to be heartfelt, sincere, and really taking into consideration all the concerns that you homeschooling parents are thinking about. So do join us. We're so excited to see you again in the next few episodes. So don't forget to subscribe, just like what Cher said, so you'll be updated with all the new episodes that will be coming out. Thank you.
So with that, we'll say goodbye for now, but we will see you in our next episode. I'm raising a cup of coffee to all of you homeschooling parents and future homeschooling parents. Like what Sig said, make sure you join us for the upcoming episodes. And on behalf of my very accomplished and very patient co-host, my name is Cher, and we will see you for the next episode of The Heart of Homeschooling. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good day.
See you then.